guys, I wanted like with regards to taking on a project like the Half 11 project. Is it a case of you guys don't sit there and very carefully work out like the business plan? You kind of, I get them, or do you? I don't know. Maybe you do, but I mean, is it how does something like that? How do you justify? Okay, you guys enable each other, but how, is it? Do you just guys just follow the Ben and Jerry's mantra of like going, we're going to put as many marshmallows into this as possible, and everyone's going to love it so much that they'll pay more for it?
It's a great way of describing it. I think, I mean, the thing is like we have, other car projects and other stuff. And yeah, I think enabling is a bit dangerous at times because it puts us in like a rabbit's hole of, like you're just falling into the rabbit hole. But with Half11, it was the scope of the project. The idea of it was more of like a backyard build initially. We just wanted to like do something ourselves, and make this just kind of like rat rod Porsche thing, and just kind of like say screw it to the Porsche world, right? And like, yeah, we had the whole history and stuff. And then we started posting some of the stuff, and like the response was kind of like insane. Like people loved it. And then people wanted one. And then people were like, I'll give you a deposit. And like, we're just like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. And so what initially any of the business plan, any of the business model was completely thrown out. And a totally different scope took off where we're talking about like a small batch manufacture of the things, like make 25 of them potentially, right? And so that meant way more intense CAD work. It meant way more intense like research into production processes, mold making, all of these things, right? To make it viable and possible. And it's just been kind of like a bunch of hurdles that we've had to jump through and to get to the next stage. And we've just done it willingly because like it's kind of like this feeling of like, well, like that's like cool, let's do the next stage and the next stage. And I don't think we've actually like we've been moving so fast we haven't looked back and like seen what we've done or anything, nor counted how much money we've invested or hours or anything. It's just, yeah, it's been like a passion driven thing. And it's like, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes, kind of thing. So yeah, we're, I think, fortunate to obviously have the connections, resources, lots of skill and talented people working with us and helping us and guiding us, as well. And yeah, it's just been a learning process for sure, to say the least.
And is it now kind of like build it and they will come sort of thing? I mean, are you because I was reading on your website yesterday that and it's I think you're okay with saying it because you've actually noted it there that it's probably going to cost around 600 grand is the estimate. So you
Yeah.
fucking hell. But how far away are you from realizing the first prototype?
I think our first prototype, basically like during this whole process, it's been like really hard to figure out time frame, and timelines and stuff like that, especially with the evolving scope. We're now to the point where we're tightening all that schedule up, and we can kind of begin to tell. We should have a running car in like summer, so like June
Wow.
is the goal. So it should be able to run. There's delays here and there. I think we've found that metal shaping and getting exactly what we want is a lot harder than clay. So it's a much less forgiving material. So we've run into some delays there, just executing our vision. But yeah, come summer, we should be able to have some fun in the prototype. Sure.
Fuck,
Be
dude.
fun.
And am I correct in saying that you guys are going to offer a range of different engine types, including an electric powertrain? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've. It's funny. We're probably the last people that would ever want an electric car. I mean, I'm such a through and through petrol head, but we now have like some e-bikes that we were messing with, and it's so freaking cool. I love it.
What bikes are they?
They're Super 73s.
Okay, cool.
So we're customizing them, and they're just cool, man. It's just so easy, and like you park it inside, and it's like, I don't know, it's freaking awesome. But
So effortless.
yeah, so we never even thought about doing an electric Half11, and then we had a few people reach out actually from around the world, and they're like, I would be interested in buying one, and we were like, oh my god, we better learn everything there is about batteries. And yeah, so it's basically there'll be an electric option, and then water cooled and air cooled Porsche engines, and whatever engine somebody wants. Because I mean the cars will be hand built. They're one of one. We can modify the chassis. We can adjust wheelbase based on like the block length or the transmission that's required. So the really cool part about it is just how flexible we can be, and that we're not dependent on like building 25. Like we could build just 2 or we could build 5. Like we have the luxury of flexibility and kind of the freedom of no pressure, if you will.
Yeah.
And if anybody's got a problem with it, they can just go and find another set of twins that are recreating history. Is that right?
Pretty much.
Exactly.
That's fucking awesome.
I think the other cool thing is like it's not just about engines, it's about body styles. Where we're really fascinated, and what we'd love to do is like if every 25 cars was actually different, like in the race spec that they raced in. So you could have like a later one, like late 70s, that's more aero, that's more like streamlined and stuff.
Maybe
and
slant nose.
Yeah, slant noses, all of that stuff. Like we'd be so happy if like a customer would want a different body style,
Yeah.
Like we're designers, like we just want to design more stuff, make our life even more complicated. So.
They just need to drop the 600 Gs and you'll make it happen.
That's it.
Yeah, just reach in under the couch and I'm sure it's there.
But one thing that became quite apparent to me, I watched the Speed Hunters video of you guys with the Dropped Alfa, and you guys really clearly understand your shit. It's not just, you guys are not just drawing pretty things on paper. You guys actually know quite a lot about mechanics and how everything's put together, and a fair amount about engines. Where does that come from? Is that just your own curiosity?
Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I mean, it's, fake it till you make it. No, I mean, in all honesty, I don't think I knew how an engine worked until after Art Center, Like, honestly, I knew something moved, but that was it. Like, I couldn't tell you what a camshaft was, So
We didn't know how to stay.
I couldn't. Honestly, I think I did my first oil change like when I was 24 or something,
I still haven't done one. So when I come and visit at some point, you need to show me.
No, Sam, it was a horror story. Like we lived in an apartment and we had a 911 and the thing takes like 12 quarts of oil. It's like 3 gallons or something. And so I opened the wrong thing and basically spilled all this oil in the underground parking lot. And we were doing it at like 2 a.m. because, you're not allowed to do that sort of stuff in an apartment, and it's just oil everywhere. That's how I learned how to do an oil change. But it's just anything we do, we want to know how it's done so that we can see like whoever we're working with, if they're doing things the right way, if they're good at it, that's, like if an Alias modeler, like I could tell because I kind of know Alias, right? Or a clay modeler, you can kind of tell. Or if you're working with another designer, I mean, we're the engineering team. Like if they say no, you want to understand why, right? I mean, he's done production programs and he understands why they say no. It's, it could be money, or it could be just they're lazy, or it could be an actual real reason that it can't be done. Which is very rare. So just a natural curiosity for everything. Like I just want to, just a jack of all trades, I guess.
Guys, I wanted to know about you guys. You guys are both like really friendly and open people, and you've also been known to just give your keys out to fucking anybody. I wondered, like, over the years, I'm sure you've probably had some undesirable characters that have just like filtered into your life. And I'm sure that you guys don't put up with any shit, but like how have you had situations like that, and how have you handled it, and how have you got those people out of your life? Has that happened? Because I imagine that, you know, you guys seem like pretty open people, and I'd heard that before, and then I was reading this. Sorry, it wasn't. It was the Hoonigans video that I saw. But I was reading. I read a Speed Hunters article on you, and they were actually visiting your neighbor. But he was like, no, you need to go and see the fucking psycho twins next door. They're really interesting. And then, and you guys were just like, yeah, sure, come in, and you ended up giving everybody your keys. That's a different story. But I imagine that, you know, you guys are generally pretty open and friendly people. And has that ever okay, that's maybe a better question. Has it ever backfired on you?
I can't really think of anything like that has backfired. I think we are pretty open with that stuff, and I think for the most part it's worked, like giving people respect and, like, you know, trust, and they kind of mutually give it back. I'm trying to think of any situation.
I mean, not really, because I mean, in the end, I feel like it's a learning experience. Like there's been toxic people or whatever, but you just sort of either learn how to deal with it or learn how to channel that toxicity, is that a word, into like a direction or something positive. And if it's not, then yeah, you just kind of stop hanging out, right? I mean, it's just kind of it natural, right? Like we don't put up with negativity. We just kind of like,
yeah. I think what you're talking about is like one day, but in terms of like our daily life, I think we're very protective about kind of our bubble and in the environment and the people we surround ourselves with. I think.
No, I was actually talking about that. Like, you know, if somebody like one day comes around for coffee and you're like, yeah, sure, come in. And then, like, you know, you find yourself getting calls or text messages from this person all the time. And then they're fucking knocking on your door every week and trying to infiltrate that, you know. I
think we're really harsh and really protective on our peace of mind. Like we need the focus, we need the space to do our work, and any distractions, anything, we're, I think, ruthless in cutting that out. So pretty damn ruthless.
Very good. Guys, I guess we're probably going to wrap up soon, but I wanted to know, like, I've got a couple of questions left. They're going to probably be more education related, but I wondered, like, what do you think that the education system is getting right, and what they're getting wrong, or what are they getting wrong? Is there anything that they're doing right? I mean, I know that there's a lot of things that, for example, that Art Center does really well, and but I still can't understand how the fees that they charge are justifiable. You know, and you know, it's easy to say, oh, I was speaking to a former GM executive the other day, and he was saying, yeah, but you know, you get what you pay for at the end of the day. And I was like, maybe so, but I still don't think it's, like, regardless of what it, I still don't think it's justifiable. You know, that fucking insane amount of money, and for students to be coming out with like $100,000 in debt. I just wondered if you guys have got some ideas about how it could possibly be done better.
Well, I don't know if Art Center wants us to say the real opinion here.
No, but it doesn't have to be like art center related. I mean, it can be more general if you
Yeah,
want.
I mean, look, Art Center, yeah, it's an insane amount of money. Pforzheim's got it right. There's no reason and no justifiable reason to pay. Basically, now it's basically $300K to get a degree for transportation design. So you have students that are paying off their loans for 20, 30 years, and it's obscene. It's completely uncalled for. And a lot of the people that get the scholarships are getting them for different reasons. A lot of it is not talent related. So it's just, yeah, I mean, the whole system is kind of, I would say I'm not a big fan of it. Without scholarships, we wouldn't have been able to do it at all. And without obviously some sacrifices from like our family, our grandparents and stuff. And even then we still had, I think, something like 70K in debt. So I think, there's obviously all this online stuff is a huge threat. The real question is like, what is a designer in the future? And like, what skills do you need to be as a designer? Do you really need to be able to even draw? I mean, what's the point? We make 3D sculptures, right? So do we just skip the drawing phase? Why do we need that? But then what's the role of a clay model or an A-list model? I mean, you could sort of extrapolate this, 20 years into the future, or do you extrapolate it like 12 months into the future, right? And in 12 months, you still need to be able to communicate with people through a pen drawing, a section drawing. But is it an old-fashioned way of approaching it? I don't know. I think, I just think in-person learning, especially for car design, doesn't make sense. I think, if I had free reign, I could probably teach somebody to be a car designer in like a year. Like if they really wanted to do it and like committed the same level that you see in like the top students, I don't think you need like 3 or 4 years. I think you could do it in a year and then throw them on the job and let them learn, because that's the real world. School is one thing, but the real world is totally different. It's totally different. And you see it so many times, like a really good graduate gets a job and then he just, stops progressing and he's just, bottom of the food chain. So yeah, I don't know, man. Online learning, it's the future. Don't pay $300,000.
Yeah, I have a slightly different opinion. I think it's, there's no real accountability for schools. Once someone kind of gets into the system, they kind of push them through, right? And a lot of the students don't have the correct skills and don't have the right mindset to be successful, right? And in a lot of ways, like Art Center back in the day, when the average age of like the student was like 27, it made a lot of sense, right? Because like these people either had previous degrees, they had previous jobs, and they're like, I want to be a car designer, I'm driven, I want to do this, right? It's a very different mentality these days with the students. Very different in terms of work ethic, in terms of,
I don't work on weekends.
Yeah, like not working on weekends, like for a student, that's crazy, right? But I know students that don't do that.
Like even at a place like Art Center, that's the attitude.
Yeah.
It's fucking outrageous. I don't. Yeah. Okay.
It's a healthy live-work balance, Sam.
Yeah. You got it wrong, man. You're old school. But I think, it is going to take the drive and determination. But again, like the skills that you need are communication skills and critical thinking skills, right? And it's not just about drawing, right? It's so much more than that, and none of it's really taught, right? Critical thinking is one thing that's really not taught in design schools, in terms of just self-awareness, self-analysis, all of these things, right? It's all like style guides or like, oh, the sketch isn't flashy enough or this or that. You need more contrast. And it's like, it doesn't really focus on like whether it's like a valid idea or not. It's just like, let's make it as sexy as we can. Which, that's a skill and it helps sell things. But I think, as new tools come in, all of that stuff, it's going to change the workflow environment for a lot of people. mean, we're struggling within an art center because all the kids use Blender these days, right? And you know, we're a semi-traditional class where you're supposed to hand draw everything, but like half the students just come in with Blender models, and you know, it's like, okay, that's not really the point of the exercise, right? But I think it's yeah, you have to teach people to be curious. You have to teach people to be, I don't know, like that designer nomad kind of thinking and lifestyle, and like it just isn't necessarily enforced or even kind of vocalized. I think in most design schools, it just like get to this certain like flashy skill level that you see on SimCom or something, right? Sorry, SimCom, you're great, and you can get a job, right? But it's so much more than that. I think another thing you see a lot in industry is like really great portfolios, but then you don't know how long someone took to do that project, right?
Yeah, true.
Right? And it's like it took them like 10 months to do it, and it's like, okay, now you have 1 week to design a compact car, like go, right? And so I think that it's just like transparency, all of these things that I don't know. It's a very complicated issue, I think.
Dude, the thing is, like, one of the things that I wanted to do with these discussions is to talk about that sort of thing, because I think that you know, you get people, and it's not one particular institution. You know, I've seen graduates from Pforzheim, I've seen graduates from a fucking RCA as well that are just, you know, they might have this big flashy portfolio, but when they actually start the job, if they're lucky enough to get a job, because it's also not a guarantee, that they're still totally unaware of what is actually required of them, you know, totally oblivious. And I just think that, you know, I think it's a fucking cop-out as well from the universities to just go, well, you know, it's not our job to spoon feed you. And it's like, well, you know, listen, bollocks, if I'm paying fucking 300 grand for my education, I think some like help in that regard is, you know, it's the least you fuckers can do, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think the universities, I think the problem is like curriculums aren't flexible, right? And they don't necessarily advance with time, and you know, certain instructors don't advance with time in terms of what they teach, right? I think what's been really interesting for me personally as an instructor is, you know, to continue to advance how you explain something, how you get something across, because with each passing year, you almost have to do it in a different way. You can't stand still. Like time doesn't stand still. So I think more adaptability, more quick changes would go a long way to, I guess, speaking to the same language as the students, you know, and explaining things better to them.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, the students that we taught 10 years ago, you know, or 8 years ago, whenever we started teaching, I mean, we have to talk to them differently now, and the software is different, the process is different. And, you know, to be frank, the expectation of when they graduate is different, you know? So yeah, the schools just need to adapt quicker to it. But, you know, as an industry in general, automotive design is very slow. You know, it's such a slow industry, you know, it's like the adaption of like new software is like, it's crazy and, you know, so slow. And it's just,
I think the other thing that's really important to tell the students is they only have to be like awesome when they graduate, you know? Like you can suck all the way through design school. Like you can experiment, you can be a free thinker, you can be a rebel, you can do anything you want. Like be yourself and go and confidently kind of explore the whole world, right? Don't just be this person that just like, you know, follows the rules and of what your teachers are telling you, because I mean, first of all, it's really singular in kind of what you're going to learn to execute. And I think a lot of schools, like they focus so much on, like you said, grades, right? And kind of the importance of that, and kind of like appeasing people instead of really creating like individual creatives, which is really what you want to do, you know? Like you don't want to create a system where everyone's the same. I mean, there's
There's a few schools that do that.
A few companies as well that want that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's marketable, right? Because like everyone knows what they're going to go to art center. You can pick any student, like they're all basically the same. And I don't know. I think that's kind of a shame in some ways, because it really limits some people. And, you know, I think it really plays with people's self-confidence as well. And kind of like their belief in their abilities at times, right? Because they're forced down this narrow path where they might be really like a bright genius, but they're kind of like, just because they don't have the belief or something, they get pigeonholed a little bit, right? And it holds them back.
Yeah. It's but it's also I kind of, yeah, you've definitely got a valid point, but I think that like you talking about it from a point of view where a lot of kids that probably are coming through a place like Art Center have got quite a high level. They haven't mastered their craft necessarily, but that part of it is very much taken care of. Again, I'm probably not the best example, but my generation that came from Coventry, for example, I mean, we were kind of, I don't know, I've said some pretty negative things about my experience there, and they probably hate me for it, but I feel let down in a sense that we were kind of like encouraged to try all sorts of crazy shit, but then and to have a variety of work in your portfolio. But I don't think there was nearly enough emphasis nor communication of the know-how of how to improve your craft. Like the craft side was very much missing, and those things need to be balanced somehow, you know. Yeah, it's a subject that we can talk about forever, but it's really interesting to get your spin on that. Guys, I wanted to know, like, what piece of advice would you give to kids starting out now that maybe can't afford to go to a place like Art Center?
Don't go to Art Center. I mean, honestly, you have all the tools to be as good as you are. I mean, there's places where you can go online, incredible sort of sketch competitions, you know, submit your stuff, post your stuff online, get honest feedback from people. You can reach out to literally any designer, anyone that you idolize, you can reach out to them. And most of these guys are super nice and they'll help you. I mean, I answer emails like almost once a week or whatever, you know, helping people, telling them what to do, how to work on their perspective or their color or what career path to take. There's no reason you need to go to one of these big schools to be super talented and like to be very good. You just have to be like, I don't know, super critical of yourself and find the right resources, you know? And of course, then, you know, go to a good school, one with a good reputation, because in the end, a diploma is quite valuable for people hiring you. But even then, you know, do internships, even with smaller companies, industrial design companies with less of an ego that are willing to take on younger people, and just learn from professionals. Because in the end, professionals get paid to do it. They know kind of some of the processes that are the right way to do it. And just, yeah, learn from that community. In the end, it's the community that you build that basically brings you up. And, you know, I think, Sam, you've said a few times, like, you learn more from the students than the teachers, you know, and I'll echo that. I think at Art Center, we learned way more from the students than from the teachers. So make your own community, you know, and just learn from them.
That's great advice. The second part to that would be, you mentioned competitions. Like, what is your spin on that? Because again, it's a hot topic at the moment, and without demonizing the youth of today, I just maybe highlight what. Yeah, no, I'm not going to tell you. You, what is your spin on that? on somebody on a student, on a young person that doesn't want to give their brilliant design away.
Yeah, so I remember as a student thinking that the instructors were coming and taking my ideas from Art Center. Is nothing further from the truth. Once I became a professional, I go to Art Center, I am bored out of my mind. The level of surface development and proportion is so incredibly boring. There's no way I'm stealing anything. So just from that point of view, I wouldn't be afraid. So I can fairly say my ideas were not stolen, most likely, although I'm still a little bitter. But yeah, no, I think these competitions are fantastic. I mean, I was part of like a TV show and they told me like ideas are cheap, execution is what's expensive, and it's
ideas are cheap. Ideas are fucking cheap.
That's the thing is like I could go talk to any guy on the street and he could tell me like, oh, let's do a car with 8 doors and 4 wheels, and it's like, okay, cool. But actually building something, making something happen, getting through all the regulations, the laws, and to be frank, like I've done this a while now. I think it's almost 10 years. All the themes have a lot of the themes have been drawn. It's so rare to find something that's incredibly fresh or that hasn't been done. Just put your work out there. Don't be afraid of people stealing it. And if they steal it, then you know what? Your name's on their list to hire later on. Like that you're on the watch list, because the company will want to hire the guy who came up with that idea. So just play along.
Yeah, I mean, I think I generally agree with that. I think, it's funny that like an image, someone thinks, like when you're doing like Polestar or whatever, I mean, their design language is quite clear. A lot of that stuff it's borderline formulaic, right? And so I think there's going to be overlap with the whatever production stuff comes out or anything else, right? And so I think it's always good to feel like you had a part in like some company's form language or something, but there's so many brilliant designers that have it's like when a show car comes out, that's already 2 years worth of work.
Yeah, I think what's important to remember for anyone sketching is like any car you see was probably designed 2 years ago, let alone the design strategy was set like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
It's like if you haven't seen a Polestar City car, I guarantee you they've already designed one inside their studio or whatever.
Exactly. And it's like the Ford Bronco that came out, right? Like so many people are like, oh, look, this is my Ford Bronco proposal that I did. It's like, yeah, it's a retro futuristic Ford Bronco. Like, congratulations. They all look the same, like, yeah. So yeah, I think
Go.
I think it's just silly. I think get your ideas out. I think the benefits that you can reap from it are astronomical. It's the same thing as like if you get out there, people will know who you are. Internship opportunities can open up. All of this stuff, it just opens up the world. For you to grasp. Basically, it's a great thing. I think competitions and it's cool that you have different brands embracing it. You have I wish I had it when I was a student and stuff like that.
Thank you. I mean, what did competitions look like fucking 10 years ago? They were bullshit.
Hey, he was a finalist for Motor Trend or something.
Yeah, as a kid. It was
really
great. Yeah.
Oh, there was the Peugeot design competition. Remember the full size?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if we had access to that. That's the fucking thing. It was like certain schools got access to those things and certain schools didn't. I mean, there was one competition, maybe there was two. I mean, there was the Michelin Design Challenge, of course, which, again, I don't know what the criteria was for that. There was Ultramotive. Those were not Ultramotive. It was... I don't know. Interior motives. Sorry, I think. And then there was another competition that we got exposed to called Lagers, which I don't even know what the fuck it was. You guys probably haven't heard of it. It was some French thing, and it was by some publication in France. It was bullshit. And now you've got like you've got these challenges where the design director is going to fucking look at it. He's going to look at it.
Right.
And you've got a direct line in there, and you guys are sitting there on your high horse going like, I don't want this brilliant sketch that I'm going to do, somebody's going to rip it off. It's like, as you said, you don't realize, dude, that no matter how fucking nice it is, it's just a drawing. It's not a fucking design. Design takes time. It's about execution. And that's like a team of hundreds of people over a period of between 3 and 5 years, Exactly. Another side note to that, sorry, I know it's more about you and I'm kind of hijacking the limelight now, but that's what I do. The other thing is that people need to fucking understand, right, that just because some car on the road, I don't want to say brands, but some car on the road that you've seen, you go like, oh, that's bullshit. They don't know what they're doing. There's a team of people in there that are fucking amazing, that a lot of them, there's a reason why that car looks like that. And that can be anything from politics to safety regulations to budget constraints, whatever. The design team in most OEMs, not that the vision's always there, but there are guaranteed a lot of people with a lot of fucking great ideas that don't need to steal your bullshit sketch that you've come up with in your bedroom. I haven't really articulated it that smartly, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I can't agree more. And I mean, anyone who works in the industry can probably say that usually the one that does go to production or even the design is usually not even the best one, like there's so many. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Proposals. There's no reason for these guys do it for a living. And like, to be honest, most creatives have an ego and like, they don't want to steal. Like I don't want to steal anything. Like why would I steal? Like I think I could do better, I don't know.
Dude, my napkin sketch is way better than that kid's napkin sketch,
Yeah. Boys, I think I've sucked enough time out of you and enough stories and insights and everything. I was thoroughly enjoyed meeting you guys, and you lived up to everything. As I said to Nikita, I said to Iliya in the email, I don't think I elaborated quite like this, but like on paper, you guys should be the biggest fucking arseholes in the world, and you're the total opposite. And you guys, like I've heard from multiple people that you're super nice, and you guys have just been a real pleasure to spend time with. And I want to thank you. It was great. Thank you very much.
Well, your hat reminded us how to act.
Exactly. Yeah. Just in check.